Webster, do you ever stagger back by the hypocrisy of Obama? When you said he was going to be the greatest liar ever 6 months before he was in office, I thought you had gone overboard. I knew it was bad. But, I mean, this guy has brought lying to a new level where he says, I'm against Bush and torture. It was outrageous. And against secret detention. That's why we're going to just have preemptive stuff for what you might commit with no evidence. So it's now pre-cog, pre-crime. I mean, it's like an alternate dimension, Webster Tarpley.
Well, it's, I guess the first president who wanted this stuff was Nixon, right? Preventive detention. And now we have Obama with unlimited detention, no habeas corpus, no due process, no nothing. And you see that it seems to me it's a three-part process. You have a world economic depression. You go back to the 1930s. First, you have a depression. Then you're going to have pressures towards dictatorship. Unless you can solve the depression, most governments in the world go into this authoritarian involution. And then at the end of that, you've got World War III. And we can see signs of that. So certainly Obama's a liar. The good news is that Obama's lies are not successful. He bombed in Moscow. Nobody went gaga for Obama in Russia. Russians very, very smart, much better than the Germans last summer. And the other side now is he bombed in L'Aquila, where he was trying to ram down.
Okay, let's talk about that, then the global warming stuff and a lot more. Webster Griffin Tarpley's our guest. Webster, I want to get into global warming first. Then we'll get into you saying he flopped. I don't know if I completely agree with that, but I respect your opinion. But I haven't been following it maybe as closely as you have. But I was in Barnes & Noble's last Friday, and I just decided to randomly walk across the room to the stacks of magazines and to just see what the propaganda was, close my eyes, and grab two. I only got through one. One was a women's magazine. One was The Atlantic. And I opened it up, and literally 50%, I have all my notes in here, of the ads are we need a global carbon tax, and most of them paid for by oil companies. And then, so I started digging through Time and Newsweek and a few other magazines when I was over at my parents'. They were all the same. I mean, you talk about total propaganda immersion. Every other ad is for global carbon taxes and how it will save us. And then another one is how the family isn't good and we need to stop having marriages, and basically the state can raise the kids. And then there's another weird one in here that says they want to start terraforming the planet with giant blimps. I mean, you can't make up this much craziness. I mean, the public is just, as much as I think I know about propaganda, it's total immersion, Webster. All the oil companies, all the big banks, everybody behind this global carbon tax to regulate every facet of our lives. And like with the car companies, where Obama only keeps open the car dealerships that make payments to him. I mean, is this just pure mafia government? And why are they pushing so hard for this carbon tax?
Well, of course, it's a form of mass brainwashing. But let's also remember something similar has been tried before. If you go back to the Carter era, there was the same hysterical propaganda about the limits to growth, the need for sacrifice, the idea of synthetic fuels, that oil was bad, and that nuclear, of course, was demonized with the staged 3 Mile Island incident, with a scenario film with Jane Fonda coming out 2 weeks before, and so on and so forth. If you go back, if you have any old paperback books, go and look in the backs. The ones that come from the late 1970s have some kind of stuff about limits to growth, or the population bomb, or the oil crisis, or something like this. So this is standard. This is that wing of the Trilateral Commission in the Bilderberg. It's the Rockefeller group and the soft power group and the rest of them. In terms
Webster,
of
as you're speaking for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers, I'm on page 1 of The Atlantic. And while you're talking, I'm just going to be flipping through it. See, this is Dutch Royal Shell, owned by Queen Beatrix, saying we've got to cut the CO2 and have a global tax.
That's the flagship of the oil cartel, Royal Dutch Shell. That's the Anglo-Dutch heart of the matter. That's the alliance that was cemented with William and Mary going over to take over from the Stuarts in 1688 with the Glorious Revolution. That's the current form of that. However, just on that front, BP, right, British Petroleum, had this whole demagogic campaign that they were beyond petroleum. They have dropped it. It's a loser. So remember, this doesn't go on forever. It's a huge assault right now. But don't give up. Don't despair, because this is the hysteria, and it's very intense. But I don't think it can be kept up for too long now.
But it's even got Agenda 21 in here about UN. I mean, just everything. I mean, this whole thing.
Yeah, the whole international bureaucracy, the whole.
This is calling for the Fed to be given the.
Let's fight back now, and I'd like to talk about what I heard from your previous guy. This is a chance to organize a political party to sweep these people aside. But let's talk about global warming. The Waxman bill, what does it do? Cap and trade bill, right? This is a piece of absolute lunacy. It's $15 per whatever unit of hypothetical carbon that has to be offset. Now, the immediate effect of this cap and trade essentially is to put another tax on productive activity in the United States. This is the opposite of what you want to do. You want to tax speculative Wall Street transactions with a Tobin tax, a securities transfer tax. So you're taxing paper speculation, not production. This is obviously the reverse. This leaves the speculation alone. They're going to let derivatives go further, as Geithner said this morning, and now they're going to tax production. But in particular, it's the final deindustrialization of the United States, and it's genocide, because one of the main U.S. exports that still remains is, of course, food. The American farmer is a unique success story. The whole food situation of this planet depends on the American farmer. If you have a cap and trade, you're going to double the export price of U.S. corn and U.S. grain. You're going to kill, out of the billion people who are on the verge of starvation, you can easily kill half of them. You're talking about 500 million dead or something like that.
And by the way, they admit that their carbon cuts will do that, and they say that's good.
They want it. Yeah, they're genocidalists. Worse than Hitler.
We're on the march.
Worse than Hitler.
The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
We're going to go back to Tarpley in a moment, but I've been promising to do this since yesterday, so I want people watching at prisonplanet.tv. This is just one magazine. I walked it with my eyes closed and grabbed off the rack. I said, I want to see what the propaganda is, because every magazine I seem to open is full of nothing but brainwashing for world government, and the family's bad, and guns are bad, and patriotism's bad, and veterans are bad, and they need to be arrested. I mean, just crazy. And so I'll walk over and I'll grab the Atlantic. Now look at this. First thing, Dutch Roll Shell. They have 3 ads in this magazine. CO2 is evil. We need a global carbon tax. We need to have the UN run it with energy, regional carbon, sequestering partnerships to make everybody put their carbon into Dutch Roll Shell mines that will store carbon dioxide below the Earth's crust. I mean, you know, just total insanity. And then everything's about the green revolution, and then you get into here, and we need global regional control, and the Federal Reserve's got to run every facet of the economy. This is the Federal Reserve takeover. All states advertising. Everybody's going to be forced to have insurance. So everybody in the pool. And then you've got IBM saying, we're going to make everybody accept our smart grid. This will lower CO2 emissions because only absolutely essential travel will be allowed. I mean, this is total tyranny. But this is a magazine. Look, Monsanto, we got to force everybody onto GMO. It's wonderful. Letters to the editor. This is all global governments needed. Police states needed. JP Morgan's great. We're going to save you. Why an oil company president supports cap and trade. An open letter from Shell.us. Of course, U.S. doesn't even mean the United States. They just put that on there to make you think it's like America. Oh, look, he's America. Look, see Dutch Roll Shell right there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a few pages into this. This is a story about how we need the feds to take over. I mean, it's literally, here's another one.